Great. Well, welcome back after your lunch. We are in the final stretch, so the final furlong of the conference. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I wanted to echo the thanks that we've already heard. It's wonderful to be here and really lovely to be amongst such experts. I think you'll agree the panel and the members have been phenomenal, and I've learned a lot. So, what I wanted to talk to you today is a little bit about who I am, where our team is working really practically with AI in communications. And as we've heard, it's such an important area. And really, for public communicators, it's about protecting our people, protecting public trust, and ultimately democracy. So very quickly, this is me. I have over 20 years experience working in communications, mostly Stratcom's roles, and I've worked across 4 or 5 different departments and ministries. I think I wanted just to start by showing the UK model, because that's really helpful in terms of when I talk about the processes and the frameworks about where we sit. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the Cabinet Office sits within the Prime Minister's office, and we orchestrate and kind of coordinate from the centre. So this positioning really helps with accessing a large government communications estate. We won't delve too much into that, but very quickly, we've heard a lot about the title of this conference, so strategic communications, and it's a very, very broad definition. For me, it includes the whole range of communication disciplines shared along in blue along the bottom, underpinned by campaigns and integrated crisis communications responses. But what is common to all of us is that, and we've heard it a lot, public communications, it's about informing the public, it's about building trust in the government, and it's coordinating valuable resources. Using communications is an important lever of change. That's just a quick reflection of where we work across the world. But what is interesting is the thematics. So my team work across trade and governance, trade and prosperity, climate, and security and defence. And the reason I wanted to share this with you is because that portfolio, security and defence, supporting with countering hostile state activity and hybrid threats, mis and disinformation, cyber security, all of those managing advancements in the comms space, this is the area that is growing most rapidly. It's transforming the work that my team and I do from around 70 to 90% in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. So what are the essentials of AI? Well, as we've heard, there's a rapid growth of AI and the associated rise of mis and disinformation with that. And it presents significant challenges. And we've heard that, both for governments, organizations, and businesses worldwide. But there are opportunities too, and that's what I wanted to run through today. We're addressing these issues with a proactive and strategic communications approach. AI, as we've heard, is rapidly transforming various aspects of our everyday lives, from deep learning tools to new product creation, task creation, and task automation. And it's continuing to expand. And we've heard over the last couple of days how it's fundamentally changing the aspects of our lives. In 2024 to 2013, statistics suggest that this market predicted growth will be 28.5%. That's 28.5% on already the growth that we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years. Putting that into context, by the end of this financial year, it's predicted that the AI market will reach $305 billion. That's immense. We've heard as well, AI is slowly but invading and embedding in our lives. It's been doing this for some time. So let's take a walk through an average day. You might get up earlier than I do, but I tend to wake up about 6 a.m. And I open my phone with ID. So that's the alarm that's gone off. That uses Face ID. So that's using biometrics such as Face ID technology to enable that functionality. You might have a quick check-in on your socials over breakfast, or perhaps like me, on your commute into work. Whether that's looking at searches, so it kind of does the echo chamber. It might tell you what you've already been looking at. All of those algorithms that you're used to is using AI to fulfill that requirement. You then perhaps get into work, maybe a little bit before me, but AI is constantly working behind the scenes to personalize what that is for the work that we're doing, whether that's spell checker, whether that's spam filters, whether that's antivirus software. It's all using AI effectively behind the scenes. On the way home, it's Christmas. I'm doing exponential amount of online shopping at the moment. And again, behind the scenes, there are algorithms that are showing us more of what we want, more of what we've been looking at, and filtering what we might want to see. And then at the end of the busy day, you might be winding down. Instead of going to the gym, as I probably should, I'll probably sit down, watch a little bit of Netflix. Again, AI is viewing our history. And you even use AI in banking, bots and things like that to help you have that conversation. I'll move on. But my point is that, in fact, as we've already heard, AI has been embedding into our lives for a little while. But now we have the tools to help us in our everyday work. I don't need to tell you about the definition of the most significant advances, but that's in generative AI. And that's the development of things like videos, images, music. And these tools can generate and help us in our response. We've heard a little bit about how AI is infiltrating areas such as medical diagnostics and healthcare. We've heard about education, agriculture, financial services. But the impact of AI in the information and the communications industry is probably the most significant for us and likely to be for the next couple of years. So if we look at language learning modules, these are trained, deep learning modules that understand and generate text as if they are written by humans. Now, I'll very quickly run through those. You'll be familiar with most of them. So OpenAI, we've heard a little bit about ChatGPT. I think it's probably still most popular. It's on version 4. Microsoft has Bing AI, and it has MS Copilot. Google, you might be familiar with Bard and Gemini. And of course, Claude, which you've also heard a little bit about. But what I really wanted to say is knowing how these large language models work allow us to use them to their best possible impact and effect in the workplace. They create language, but it's really important to know that they do not think, they do not create the truth. They have one single priority, and that's to give a coherent, responsive message. So it's not accurate at fact reporting. And we've heard lots of times today, we need a human interface so that we are constantly checking and utilizing the tool most effectively. I think calculating or understanding how LLMs work and the possibility of the next word is based on a learning pattern, and it's as good as the material or the prompt that you give it. The more context we give AI, the more effective the response will be. And if we look very quickly at the advancement of ChatGPT, it was originally 2,000 words when it was first released. It's currently at 24,000 words, and it's increasing rapidly, almost daily. And Claude 3, by comparison, uses 75,000 words. So very quickly, what does LLMs work well at? And again, this is important about applying it into the context of the working space. So it's divergent in its thinking. It's good at transforming and synthesizing language. But what is it not good at? And that's convergent thinking, so finding single correct answers. It's also not that good at being consistent, and I'm told maths, which is something we have in common. But knowing what these LLM modules do helps us know where it can be best used. So if you look at the right-hand side, this combines what they're good at alongside people's perception. So creating content with clear prompts, supporting learning, and we heard a little bit about that yesterday, and producing creative ideas. So I've put together a list here of how we're using it in the workplace. There is, for me, a very clear role for targeting campaigns and using AI in modern communications, and I encourage my team to use it to ensure that they're doing the best work possible. It's good at automating repetitive tasks, and also, and very importantly, and we've heard a little bit about this, tracking artificial amplification through bots. So looking for those repeated patterns or those kind of predisposed movements. But as we've mentioned, there are potential risks and really areas of concern too. So potential misuse to amplify false narratives, which we've heard about, challenges in identifying deep fakes and understanding what that synthetic material looks like, as well as ethical concerns about bias and transparency. So I've said a little bit about how we're using it. Drafting as a starter for 10, instead of staring at a blank page, press releases, some areas of graphics, speeches, videos. But it can give us a starting place and it can provide a perspective. And what's nice about it is it often gives us thinking angles, angles that we haven't looked at, a slightly different lens to look at. I wanted to just share with you a recent example of something in a campaign. So this is a Royal Navy recruitment campaign, and it used AI to engage with ethnic minority candidates. So the Royal Navy used research to improve their conversational AI systems. And this was to address a long-standing issue, and that was the fallout of women and black and minority ethnic groups falling out as part of the recruitment process. So what they did is they understood from telephone conversations with people that had fallen out of the process to understand what they were. And this led to new conversations adding to customer journeys to address those questions that would later be important. And what was really lovely about this example is that it reduced the dropout and addressed issues before embarking on the recruitment journey. So saved money, saved time on a long process of recruitment into the Royal Navy. We've got other examples too, road safety campaigns, addressing obesity in the country, utilising and understanding that fallout rate and addressing them up front. So what does this mean for my team and UK Government Communication Services? What does that mean about everyday work? Well, we are embracing the opportunities that AI is presenting alongside managing those risks and those challenges. We've got a dedicated team called Applied Data and Insights, and what they're doing is leading the responsible adaptation and the adoption of AI across the communication profession. What does this mean actually in practice? Well, we've been looking at this for some time. Our innovation strategy began with the launch of a strategy about 3 years ago. And since then, we've taken a strategic and systematic approach to supporting our communications world. Under the pillar of innovation and improvement, we set out 3 very clear tasks. One of those was building the digital tools and platforms that we need. The second, and very importantly, we've heard a lot about this, the policies and the frameworks to support our people using this responsibly. And then the tools and applications to put this actually into practice. So if we look at that journey through the innovation resources, we started formulating a strategy and we ended up creating our own bespoke AI tool. So we looked at a review. We wanted to understand the trends in communication technology over the coming 2 to 5 years. We asked internal and expert people what was likely to be around the corner. And very importantly, we asked our ministries, the communicators working on the front line every day, what is it that they need from a tool that can help them do their job better? And that led us to the impact, or the impact strategy that you can see, the second one along. And what it really does, together with a framework, sets out the ethical innovation that provides the support. It's about responsible guardrails, so a framework for navigating and understanding those principles. This policy is really important for 2 reasons that I want to pull out, and we've heard again about the importance of this over the last 2 days. It sets out clearly that our government will not use AI technologies without human oversight, and that's critical. It's echoing what we said and heard yesterday and earlier today. And secondly, we wanted to make a commitment that the training will provide use and how we access that information. So that innovation strategy has 3 clear components. The first is responsible use of innovation, and specifically AI. So making sure that data and technologies are responsibly used. An OECD report in 2023 said that 52% of survey respondents said government is likely only to use their personal data for legitimate purposes. That's a staggering 48% that just don't believe that the government will use their information, their data, responsibly. And that's something that we're trying very hard to make sure that we get better and get right. So alongside this, we've created this GCS, generative AI policy, how you use it, when to use it, and what are the safeguarding things that we need to put in, and an ethical innovation piece alongside it. In order to make sure that we're being as innovative as we can in the team, we've got to make sure that we are providing the support to our team. So we've got to test, learn, and scale new methods, and that means using it in practice and learning by doing. So don't be afraid to experiment. Make sure that we're utilizing it in a safe environment. I really encourage my team to share when things have gone well and when things haven't gone to plan, because it's a constant iterative model. And the third part, which is really important, is delivering new tools and platforms. So the application of generative AI for us is to enhance but not replace our important workforce. I've talked about the responsibility of using data, and that's about human oversight. So that critical thinking, that empathy, that judgment, it won't replace the skills of my team, but it does allow them to be more creative and concentrate efforts elsewhere. It's important that we're upholding facts, and we want to apply our ethical values to the AI adoption. And it's all about what we've heard a little bit about, building that trust over time with the public. So this has led us to creating our very own LLL model. It's called Assist. You can see it on the right-hand side. And it's our government's own bespoke AI tool that can support government communications like myself. It's been customized. That means it's been uploaded with our own GCS, our own government tools, frameworks, best practice. And it can help with anything from drafting a press release or providing evaluation. And as I said, it's preloaded with our best practice guidance. The second really important factor that I wanted to say was that it is secure. So it goes up against our security grading of off-sensitive, which is very important too. And I won't go into this too much detail because I'm conscious of time, but some examples of where Assist might help, and actually has helped, alongside our 7 kind of modern communicating modules, is a comms plan for economic growth, for example. It started our Start of a 10 for a press release on a new policy for clean growth quite recently. We use it to identify target audiences in the UK's National Health Service, and we've talked a little bit about the importance of targeting and personalising audience identification, and developing messages after or in response to the UK's summer riots. I talked about as well upskilling for our members. So this is the training that is critical to everyone that's using the tool. It's part of the package. It shows our digital training offer. So before using Assist or any of our LLL models, you have to show that you've completed the training. It takes about 2 hours. The first initial piece, you can do it in 2 sittings. There are questions at the end to check that you've understood and that you've been paying attention. In an earlier session today, we heard about one of the guest speakers talking about the driving license to use a car. Our approach is no different. You must complete the training before you have access to the tools. I just also wanted to show about the importance of behavior science. I'm a true advocate in understanding how people's psychology works in order to get the response we're wanting. And this shows our approach to embedding the tool within our people. So you can create an excellent tool, but it's not enough unless you are driving sustained use. So there are basically 3 stages: adopting the model, so register to use it, do the training, And then you get onto stage 2, using it in small everyday tasks, building your confidence, understanding what is within scope and without scope, and then optimizing it, so starting to use towards more effective and responsible use. I've got a case study, but I won't go into it in too much detail due to the time constraints. But what I did want to talk about is the ethical use of AI, because that is important, and we've heard a lot about it over the last few days. It's been very encouraging to hear how people are putting this front and center, and the UK government is no different to that. So I wanted to end my talk today with 6 points on ethics. The first, copyright and intellectual property. So that's checking the data source of content, and again, we've heard the importance of that. It could be problematic if it's not verified. And I think the advisor to the Prime Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina said this on the first day. It could cause problems, and that's absolutely against everything that we're trying to achieve. The second is around data provenance and quality. So similarly, generative AI systems consume huge volumes of data. And one challenge of this data is poorly management. And I gave you the quote from the OECD. So we need to check the origin. We need to manage in issues of trust, consent, and biases. Thirdly, data protection, data privacy. Again, mentioned by the Spanish professor on the first day, generative AIs are trained on data sets. And that sometimes includes personal identification information, and that's about individuals. So this needs to be properly and carefully managed. Employment. We've heard a little bit about the concerns around displacing people and some of those roles being taken up by AI. So maintaining roles for our people is critical in our approach to rolling this out. As we have invented ways to automate jobs, we then need to create room for people to assume more complex roles and to make sure that people remain part of the problem solving. Consider the unintended consequences. Again, mentioned yesterday, do we fully understand the risks? What happens if AI turns against us? I don't know if anyone's read Dan Brown's most recent novel, I think, Origin. It's by the best-selling author of the Da Vinci Code. And what it does is explains the intersection between science, religion, and technology. And that really gives you the context of what we're working in sometimes. And finally, security. The more powerful the technology becomes, the more it can be used to harm as well as to help. And that's what we've got to manage. Great. So thank you for listening.